everyone, and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem, and today we're going to tackle the first of our colouring projects that were decided in the last live stream. So today we are going to be in Intricate Ink Volume 5, so this is the hardback copy from Pomegranate Publishing. Most of Tim's images you can get on his online store, his Etsy store. The link to that will be down in the description. Please take a moment to go and check it out if you enjoy his artwork. Just before we get to this, I've made a very important decision today. I have talked previously about the amount of space that the art supplies that I have are taking up and the fact that I'm kind of running out of room. So I made the very important decision that I am going to be selling a set of my pencils. They will be going on the stash shop, and here is the reasoning for it. For today's colouring in this book, we are going to be using the Castle Arts gold pencils. So that is the oil-based pencils. And it made me realise that I actually don't use the wax-based ones anymore. So I have the full set of 120. So these are the Castle Arts Soft Touch pencils. So they are the wax-based pencils. And these are my own pencils that have been used. So some are shorter than others. Truthfully, they don't get much use. I feel as if they need to go somewhere where someone will get a lot of use out of them. These are a great mid-range pencil. I personally, for a wax-based pencil, just prefer the Arteza ones. I prefer the colour selection. I will be selling them in this really, really cute pencil case. As you can see, it's got loads of kitty cats on it. And there's this handy pocket at the front as well for you to put your swatch sheets or whatever in. So if that's something that you might be interested in, I am selling these at a very reasonable price. Obviously, they are a used item, but you saw there, most of the pencils have got the majority of the length on them. So if you would like a good set of pencils at a decent price, you can head over to the stash shop, check it out here. There are a few other goodies in the used supply section as well, so you can check those out too. So we're going to be colouring this American Kestrel here. Isn't he a cutie patootie, or it might be a she? I don't know much about Kestrels, so I did print off lots of reference images and actually a little bit of information about the difference between male and female ones. And as I mentioned, we are going to be using the Castle Arts gold pencils. So these are their oil-based pencils for this today. This is the original swatch sheet. I have not actually swatched out these pencils in my swatch book yet because I talked about this in the video at Cavemas when I reviewed these pencils. This is the swatch sheet, and you can see we've got greens here, but we've also got greens here, and then we've got a couple of blues in amongst some more greens. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then I am going to remedy this, and if you are around to join me, I will be doing a watch and swatch live stream, and that is going to be this coming Thursday, which is the 23rd of February, and it's going to be in the afternoon UK time. It's probably going to be about 3 o'clock. I will put some information up on the community tab and the socials into the start of this coming week and keep you posted on that. And we're going to sort these colours out for once and for all. But in this watch book, I'm also going to be swatching out the Karen Brush Marker Pro pens as well. So if you want to come along and maybe bring some artwork and just sort of hang out and, you know, chat, then if you're available on Thursday afternoon, please feel free to do so. So I haven't picked out any colours at all, and these Castle Arts gold pencils are quite new to me, so I thought that would be quite interesting here. So the main features and the main things that I'm excited about is they've got these really cute little orange nostril bits. Like these are very, very vibrant colours, and some of them are more red and some of them are more yellow. And look at the range of bluey greys and this ginger, come on, it's ginger, as well as these more sort of delicate, slightly less orangey colours. So this is a beautiful, beautiful bird to colour in. So we're going to pick out some pencils first and foremost. As usual, I will list the pencils down the side here as well for those of you that maybe have the sound off or whatever. I don't know, maybe you just, I don't know. You'll like that. So I'm totally fixated on this grey-blue colour, and I'm looking through here to see if there's anything even remotely sensible. The indigo light might be a good place to start. Also, we've got the Venetian blue deep, which I think is probably going to be good because it's got a lot more like violet tones in it. I think if we're just to use this indigo light, let me zoom in here a wee bit and show you. If we were to use the indigo light, I feel as if that might be too vibrant, whereas if we mix in some of this Venetian blue, it'll help to kind of like mute it down a bit and keep it a little bit more in keeping with realistic colours. Other than that, I mean, I might pop in hints of other things as well just while we're at it. So let's find these pencils. For the ginger parts, in terms of starting colours there, I am going to go with the cinnamon, which is this colour here. And again, to keep it muted, I'm going to intertwine that or layer it up with the sepia colour here. And for the sort of paler areas, I'm going to use almond as a base, which is this one here, and I'll see how everything else looks and decide what colours I'm going to use to build up on top of that, again depending on the area. So that's going to be our starting pencils. As I say, here they all are. So there's lots of different variations in the markings. The colours are all roughly in the same place depending on if they're male or female, and that's fine. So we just have to decide what we're doing or whether we're going to have a combination of the two. So from the eye area down, this part here is always cream or a lighter colour, and the same under this chin area. It all gets a bit more interesting when you come down the breast. Now from what I can see here, this looks as if it doesn't have any sort of pattern on it. But I've seen so many variations that we're going to have to make a decision there on whether it's going to be ginger or not so ginger. I feel like not so ginger because we're going to be having some ginger there, so it might be quite nice to have some variation at this point. So that's where I'm going to start. And Tim's left some quite nice lines here, is hatching to, you can clearly see where the chin fluff ends and the chest fluff begins. So I'm going to take my cue from that here, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of this in. So all I'm doing here is basically just taking away the white of the paper. Really light hand, and this seems to be quite pale under here as well. It's like the underbelly. There we go. To this part under the chin is very, very pale. It's almost white, so we're going to leave that be just as it is. I'll take our lightest ginger pencil, which is the cinnamon, and yeah, we're going to be ginger across the back here. So again, just breaking this up, I'm going to use that. See this little black line here? That's going to be my sort of starting point. So we'll work in sections once we've got our colour down and we know what colours are going where. But for now, just one semi-even layer. I mean, I wouldn't say you have to be terribly careful at this point, but especially when you've got this much of a pattern. But you do want to keep it fairly even. Okay, so what I have to do in this section here is decide which are these topmost feathers and which are these secondary sort of underneath parts here. Because this looks like it folds in. These are going to be blue. So how much of this folds in? Because I would think that this part, these feathers are going to sit over the top and they should taper to a degree. My bird anatomy, especially when it comes to wings and feathers, isn't great, but I know that these should come down and taper over the top of the parts underneath. See, this almost looks as if it belongs there as well. This is one of these ones, if it's something that you're not, if it's subject that you're not super familiar with, sometimes you have to go with a best guess. Obviously, I have no idea what kind of reference Tim was using, and I could be absolutely miles out with this, but if it looks right to the eye and it feels good to you, and, essentially if you're happy with it, then that's all that really matters. So I would like to see some of this blue at the back here, but I think I'll maybe stop it. Yeah, so let's have this part, this brown colour. And this is what I'm saying about mapping things out, and it looks as if this is tucked right in underneath here. Okay, let's go for that. I don't think that'll look too out of place. This part here is really white as well, so we're going to have some ginger tail feathers as well. Now these are really dark, these parts here, on nearly all the examples I've seen, but Tim hasn't shaded them so, which makes me interested. In the photos that I'm looking at, this part here is as dark as this part here, whereas Tim hasn't depicted that with his hatching, so maybe I might have to do a little bit of thinking about this here. And then again, very, very pale ends here, which is depicted by the fact that Tim's hardly got any hatching or shading down there at all. All very interesting. Let's zoom out a little bit. I feel as if it's really far in there. A little bit of white down there as well. Now for the head, I think I'll put the blue in first. So let's take our lighter blue, which I'm going to use the indigo light for this, and I'm going to have to go really easy with this. Let's put it where we know it's going first of all. So this is the sort of, you know, the secondary part of the wing, and these bits that we were deliberating over just a minute ago. I think that one, it's just at such an odd angle, and when you see them tucked in like that, I feel as if it belongs there, but it looks really out of place now. So I don't really know what to say or do about that in truth. The ends of their wings. Look how pretty their wings are. That's so nice. Okay, this has brought me to the conclusion that this is definitely a male. The females have got really stripy tails. Okay, we'll need to think about some colour for that, but I'll leave that just now. Now I know where I'm going. Okay, for the head part, the ginger colour, some of it seems to be a lot lighter. So I'm going to grab Terracotta Light, if I can find it. I want to bring this in here, just to this part here, and then leave that section white. There's two quite distinct sections of feathers there as well, and it's really subtle. Tim's done a really good job of blending them in together, but I can see where that sort of transition is. See, this is the kind of thing that is so difficult to do when you're drawing without making it look, you know, out of place. Obviously, it's where the head joins the neck sort of area. Tim's done a great job with that. Sneaky. So we pop that in there. Now, the thing with the top part of the head is there, in a lot of these images, there's a tiny little bit of the more sort of gingery colour. And it kind of comes to a V at the front slightly. So I'm going to follow Tim's hatch in there because you can see there's a much darker section there. Let me just zoom in a little bit again. You can see there's a much darker section there, and then these end parts are lighter, so I'm taking that as that's where the ginger V ends kind of thing. So if I go back to my blue pencil now, it may seem that I'm taking an awful lot of time on this initial stage, and the truth is, yes, I am, but if you get things absolutely right at this planning stage, it's going to make everything so much better for you when you come to actually, you know, start working away on each section. So it's worth taking the time at the beginning. And again, quite a lot of these birds have got quite a lot of white down here, so I'm only going to take this so far down. They don't have a distinct white eyebrow line, but there is a tiny little bit of white there. That's cheeky. And even like there seems to be a little bit of like a hint of blue in these sections. Let's do that because that makes that look quite natural as well. Yeah, I like that. Okay, maybe not completely technically correct, but okay, so we've got where everything's going. Now we're just going to work a section at a time and make this jump out and come to life a little bit more now that we've got the basics. We'll worry about his feet and we'll worry about his feet and the perch in the next video. I think we'll probably do this over 2 videos. I could get this squashed in, but I did want to spend time explaining about the pencils, etc. So there will be a second instalment of this. So I'm going to go between the cinnamon and the sepia. And I've also got this terracotta light, which is this more orangey colour on hand as well. And we'll go from there. So let's take this back section here. There is a very light area, so I'm going to jump straight in with that terracotta light, and I'm going to line that outside edge. Maybe there's a little bit of light hitting it. And then I can go in with the cinnamon, just add a little bit to it there. There we go. So you can see how much that's popping out straight away. That's great. So we've got a much darker section here, and Tim's left loads of hatch in here. So we'll use the sepia light for this dark, you know, these really dark hatched areas. And we can zoom in properly now because we're going to be staying here for a little while for the duration. So I am using the same mark making technique. So in this case it is a hatching, but it's a flicking motion. So I'm just matching up with what Tim's done already. And then I say switch to the cinnamon, which is now my middle shade. I'm trying not to obliterate those flicky marks completely, but we don't want them to be standing out just quite that much. And then down at the ends here, I'm going to grab this terracotta light. Again, just variation, guys. If we bring that over all the top, that'll help to bring everything together in that little section. I think I want some of the sepia down this back part here because it's standing out a bit too much. Okay, and in this top section in here, we're going to be mostly sepia. Let's be realistic, because that's in shadow because it's tucked underneath. So we'll get that nice and dark in there. And the same under here. This is tucked in behind. And let's grab the cinnamon now. Just blend that in. Again, I've deliberately not sharpened my pencil here. It's got quite a soft end on it. And it's just so that we can mash this together without any really obvious pencil strokes. On this paper though, obviously it's going to be different. If you've printed off the image from Tim's website, you're working on whatever paper you want. But if you are specifically working in the book like I am, this paper is best dealt with a light hand and many layers, which is why I decided to go with these pencils. I would normally go for polychromos, but I thought you all might be getting a bit bored watching me colour with polychromos pencils, because that's what I'd usually use in this book. Okay, and just a wee bit of terracotta light there at the bottom, just as I've done over, next door, and we'll blend that together. So we've got this light edge as well. You can see Tim's stopped the hatching short there, and there's almost like a white line down there. I'm going to go really lightly with the terracotta light down there, and then I'm going to go back to the cinnamon, and I'm going to flick up from the bottom there, so for the lighter areas, that's the cinnamon, and I'll just stop there. That's a nice section to work in. And then with the darkest pencil again, with the sepia, just what we did before, we're going to use this flicking motion. So I'm flicking this down into the cinnamon, but I'm being careful not to disturb this line. And then if we go back to the cinnamon, we can work that in between. And just build that up. So take your time here, keep your pressure to medium, don't be tempted to press down, don't be tempted to rush. Just build that section up, and if you feel it needs a little more of the sepia, if you feel it needs a bit more depth, then just go ahead and pop that in. And then the terracotta light just down at the bottom. So my technique here is to think about, well, even animal hair, human hair, naturally it is much, much darker at the roots, and its lightest part tends to be at the ends because that is the oldest part of hair. And the feather situation doesn't work quite the same way, but in a situation like this where we're working with quite a large area, it's something that that actually works quite well. So I'll get my cinnamon now, and I'm going to bring this cinnamon all the way down, and again just a tiny little bit of that lighter terracotta colour, and then we can just work on blending this all together. I feel like I need to concentrate my efforts a little more on this area here. It just feels as if that's not deep enough or dark enough, so I'll just put a little bit more on in here. Up in here as well. This is obviously the tucked under part, but I'm going to work on that gradually because I've got to bring this all the way up. So same technique for this part. The lines are a lot softer in this area as well, I notice. I don't know whether that's because it's changing into this downy fur, but I would like to keep that dark there so I've got a nice bit of contrast. Even if that is the lighter fur, I would rather change it so that we've got a really defined line, because this part next to this paler part isn't going to stand out that much. I don't think I want to go into the terracotta light there though, so I'm just going to stick with the cinnamon. Definitely heavily weighted towards that darkest sepia colour though. See, not so many flicky lines here. I want to keep this much softer because that's what the texture that Tim's put in is suggesting. So we try and keep in line with what the artist's doing. Obviously the nice thing about something like this is you're doing it your own way and making your own mark on it. But I always think it's nice to honour the efforts and the hard work that have been put in by the artist. Especially when it's done so well. Let's face it, Tim's pretty good at this, eh? Okay, there we go. So we've got this little line of feathers under here. And I've got, again, a feeling that these will be a little bit lighter at this top part here. And Tim's kind of putting a darker section in the middle, so grab the sepia, make it so. I actually feel like I want a darker brown, and to push it more into brown than red. I think I might be ruining things for myself a little bit though if I do that. We should really embrace the jaunty colours, shouldn't we? We like the ginger. I keep going back to this tail area because there's parts where some of them have, you know, the white travels quite far down here and other ones don't. So I'm kind of, I think I'm just going to, because I've taken it quite far up on that side, but that's not to say that's the same part, you know, that might not be the very tip of the feathers. So let's take it to like there, compromise, halfway. Yeah, because there's like an extra, I don't know if you can see that or not, there is like an extra detail line there, so that might be where that overlap is, she says, hopefully. Oh, goodness me. Right, now the thing is though, with this white part, we are going to have some sort of shadow, because obviously this is tucked under. These wings are overhanging this area, so although it is white, we will need to add some sort of shadow colour. We can have a think about that in a little while. Let's just zoom out and take a look at the tail. So you can see the difference there in the tail feathers compared to obviously the areas that have only got one layer of pencil, and this is how we're going to work around and build this up. So for these very dark feathers, I've just been having a think about this and I've been having a look, and I think it might be an idea to use the Venetian Blue Deep. So that was the darker, sort of more violet-y blue colour. When we start mixing this this colour in with the indigo that we've got, that's going to be a bit more uniform. I see these feathers here and the very end of the tail feathers seem to be almost black, and it doesn't matter which pictures I look at, there doesn't seem to be any hint or tint or hue. So if all else fails, we can just go back to black, but let's see what this is going to look like. Okay, straight away I think it's too blue. I can tell you now that I think it's too blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick an almost black colour. Now I've got the option here. I could just go for ivory black. The cool grey deep might be a good idea. It's got a slightly greenish tint to it. I've also got Mars black as well, which is like a brownish black. So I've got options here. I think probably the cool grey deep might be a good idea. So let's get that out and see what that looks like. Okay, oh, this might be a winner. And we'll maybe keep the Venetian Blue Deep we can keep for these lighter areas, just to give it a bit of dimension. Okay, yeah, I'm liking that because it's given us a bit of dimension there. I'm liking that a lot. Okay. It doesn't look too blue though, like the feathers still look as if they're black. That, I couldn't have asked for better than that. So we need to go easy when we're using the keep forgetting the name of this. When we're using the Venetian Blue Deep, we need to go lightly with it because we don't want blue tail feathers. What we do want is a blue hint to the feathers. This black's quite prominent as well, like it's quite imposing. I'm hardly touching the paper with that and it's like, rah, rah, see me roar. Again, maybe a little bit more black in the back there because that's tucked in a little bit. Okay, I'm actually quite happy with that. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take this almond again and I'm just going to flick a little bit in here. Just in the areas where Tim's got a tiny bit of hatching, and again it's just to give a wee bit of dimension so that they don't look completely flat. I'm pretty sure that these types of birds' feathers aren't pristine all of the time as well. Had a bit of action, then they might have a little bit going on there. Oh, the things that you think of. Okay, so I think just to finish off, what we'll do is we'll do these feathers here, the very tips of the wings, and we'll stop there, and we can kind of work our way up, but we can hit the ground running next time because we've picked out all our pencils and we're going to be using mostly the same pencils because we've mapped these colours out. So let's spend a little quick minute doing this. So I find it easier just for myself to start with the Venetian blue. Again, when I look at these images, I don't see any wings that are... Yeah, there's like a white, there is a white line round the end of these, so this is very accurate. So we don't want to dig into that too much because it's supposed to be there. Obviously it's supposed to be there, otherwise Tim wouldn't have put it in. But you know what I mean. We won't take any artistic license with that because it's quite a defining characteristic of this very attractive but deadly bird. I was reading as well about the size of them. Obviously, we being in Scotland, and more to the point being in the arse end of nowhere in Scotland, we do have quite a lot of birds of prey kicking about. And the American Kestrel, I was quite interested to find out what sort of size they grow to. And they were saying that anything from 22 to 31 centimetres. So I've got my ruler here, just in case you're interested. 22 centimetres is that. That's, you know, almost, it's smaller than Tim's drawing, and 31 is just over the length of this entire ruler. So when it comes to, because I think about them upright sitting on a fence post, because that's usually where I see them. They're not, I thought they were a lot smaller than that. They're actually quite big in terms of small birds of, does that, I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but their wingspan's big. 61 centimetres, so their wingspan's double that. Which I just find that really interesting. I don't know if you all find that interesting, but I do. I like learning about animals, obviously. I am an animal person. And birds isn't usually my wheelhouse, so it's always nice to learn something new as we go along. But yeah, they look really cute, like super cute, but I wouldn't want to get in the way of one if they were hungry. I think you could probably get quite a nasty nip from one as well, between their claws. Obviously they've got very sharp claws, but their beaks as well. I wouldn't fancy my chances with one that was angry, put it that way. Just saying. I know my limit and I know my place with animals. Try and tell people that about cows. Cows are 95% docile 95% of the time. But see if you've got a mum with a new baby, you don't want to be pissing them off. Know your place. My grandfather's old saying was, you never turn your back on a bull. That's another one. That's very, very, very sensible advice. Very sensible advice indeed. But honestly, it's the mums with the babies, it's the hormones, they're the ones you've got to watch. Bulls are usually fine. I'm going to see if I can sneak a tiny bit of this grey up in there. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. All about the contrast. Okay, let's do this bottom edge first. There's a couple of lines here of Tim's that are really stand out, like they're really, really dark. And I kind of want to try and blend them out a little bit. I just feel as if they're a bit jarring. It's really too small here to be doing a lot with the texture. But I'm trying. It's ideal when you're doing this type of thing, especially this technique here, to keep quite a good point on your pencil. I wouldn't say it has to be a perfectly, like pointy point, but you need to have some sort of shape there so that texture actually shows up on the paper. Okay, that's fairly good. I think we're managing to preserve the darkness of this without making it too blue. It does look slightly more blue on the camera than it does to the naked eye. You're always going to get that because of the colour balance, but I just want to make you aware of that it doesn't look as blue as it looks here. It certainly looks much more like a dark grey or a black when when you're looking at the entire image. It's all relative as well though, because what you've got to remember is the colours that are round about what you're doing will influence what your colour looks like. I'm sure you've all seen these memes on Facebook with the squares on it, or the one with the, I think it was a pair of trainers, and someone said they were lilac and someone said they were green or something, and different people saw different things. But it depends on the context as well. So because these feathers, again, just zoom out a little bit here, because these feathers are going to look much bluer, that's automatically going to make that look more grey than blue. Does that make sense? I hope that does. Yeah, it's just adjacent colours can influence. Because obviously if these parts were grey, then this would look much more blue just because it's got blue in it. But we're doing the opposite, and that's a good trick to know as well. If you're working with quite subtle balances of colours, that's one way of doing it. If you want something to look a particular way, even though it's a mix of two different colours, you can manipulate or alter the surrounding area to make it look more like one thing or the other. People do it with eyeshadow all the time. I have hazel eyes, and depending on what colour of eyeshadow I wear, sometimes it makes my eyes look more green than brown, and sometimes the opposite. So it's a good trick to know, especially if you've got hazel eyes. Oh, I made a boob there. I don't know if I can rescue that. It's quite a dark colour, but this is, I've just gone over into what I wanted to be a white area. Okay, no harm done. No panic. So I think, bearing in mind I haven't used these pencils a terrible amount, I think this Venetian Blue Deep is going to be one of my favourites. I can feel it. You all know I'm very partial to green pencils. Green is my favourite colour, and I do like a good indigo, like a good moody blue. So I think that Venetian colour might just be it. Trying to go a bit more softly with this grey colour here. Okay, so you can see the difference that's making between just leaving the feathers as they were versus them being coloured in here. I'm struggling to see why these are so light, unless the light source is coming this way because this should really be dark because it's tucked well underneath there. But that's okay. I'm not particularly bothered. Oh, my stomach is rumbling. It is 20 to 12 and I had a very meagre breakfast this morning. I had just had a lot to do and I never quite made it to, because normally what I'll do is I'm not very good at eating first thing in the morning, so I usually just have a handful of grapes with my cup of tea or whatever, and then I eat something proper a bit later on, maybe about 10 o'clock or something, and I didn't do that today because time just ran away with me. Oh my word, the sun's out. It's actually raining outside, but we've got sunlight as well. Hope that's not overexposing that too much. So what I was talking about earlier there with the difference in the colour next door, that's going to show up significantly here once we've coloured this extra section. I'll mention it again in the next video when we're actually doing it. So I've used that there actually as more of a shadow than the actual tail colour. Just along that line there, because obviously that's quite a big overlap, so I want that to be quite prominent. And then I'm just pulling that down off of there, just making sure to preserve that white area. Again, that's given us contrast between all the feathers as well, so nature has conveniently helped us out there just by being awesome and doing its thing. There we go. Okay, much darker in here. Okay, there we go. So let's take a wee zoom out now and see where we're at. And there you go. So the significant difference if we just like kind of chop it in half there, you know. Obviously the bottom half's looking a lot better than the top half, but you can see how much we can lift these colours. You can colour Tim or anyone else's grayscale images with just one flat colour and you will still get a nice result. You can still see all the contours here, and I love that if you're in a hurry or you're maybe not quite as experienced, you know, if you're a bit earlier on in your colouring journey. Look at the sunshine. We don't get sunshine in February, what's happening? But yeah, you know, you can take it that one step further and it's going to look awesome. So thanks very much for watching today, everyone. I might as well call it quits here because I'm going to get blinded just shortly. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Although I'm only putting out a video on a Sunday, I will probably start to slip in an extra one here and there just for the colouring videos because we want to keep the momentum. So I'm hoping that I can maybe have another one of these out maybe on Thursday. It might be a day or two either side. I'll wait and see what else I can fit in. But failing that, I shall see you all back in the cave next Sunday for another video. So have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.